What's up, everybody? This is Eric Robinson, one half of the duo behind the Wrestling Junkies podcast. Thanks so much for checking out this video. It's no secret that WWE is in the news these days. There's a lot going on, coming off the heels of the most commercially successful WrestleMania of all time. News finally broke late Sunday night, early Monday, that WWE has been sold. Yeah, you heard that right. WWE has sold, and there will be a merger coming with Endeavor, the parent company of UFC. Apparently, these two entities are going to spin off and create an entirely brand new structure of their own. A lot of you guys have asked me what I think about what's going on right now, and yeah, I'm a little shook. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to get into what it is that we're seeing here so I can get you the details and do everything right. So this deal values the newly combined company at over $21 billion. UFC is worth $12.1 billion, and WWE is valued at approximately $9.3 billion. Fair to say, Vince got the asking price that he wanted. This was about what he was hoping to find as far as the list of suitors and his asking price. Now here's the rub. Endeavor shareholders will own 51% of this new company, and WWE shareholders will be getting 49%. I think it's fair to say that Vince McMahon is probably the most unbothered individual on the face of the planet right now. Like, if you actually look up unbothered in the dictionary, this is the face that you're going to see. Yes. So you mean to tell me that Vince McMahon was gone for 8 months and the only thing that he did with his spare time was grow that mustache and dye that hair? Really? Come on, pal. Hello, 911? Yeah, I got to talk to you about this crazy old man on the loose. Now that face was on CNBC Monday with Endeavor CEO Ariel Emanuel discussing the new merger of these two companies. And yeah, we have some thoughts. A lot of people are asking me what I think about this. Is this good? Is this bad? What does this mean for the company as a whole? You know, where is this company going to go? What's the new direction? What's going to happen creatively? All valid questions, all valid points. We're still super early into this process, that it's really hard to tell what the overall impact of the sale is going to be. It is still going to be subject to regulatory approval by the SEC. There'll probably be a lot of people coming out of the woodwork to make some sort of antitrust argument, but that definitely remains to be seen. But I just kind of want to look at the things I like about this move, the things I don't like about this move, and where do we see this going? I think now a lot of people might be wondering what this does to things like the price we pay for premium live events, which are now part of the Peacock network. I don't necessarily foresee any seismic shift in that pricing structure anytime soon. I believe that deal still has a couple more years left on it, but I would imagine that once it is time to renegotiate the licensing of WWE's content, that there may be some discussion of gravitating away from PLEs on the network and perhaps rolling them into either another standalone streaming service, or partnering with somebody like ESPN, because that's what UFC already does currently, and charging a premium for those events. They knew what they were doing all along by naming them premium live events. Now, if you watched WrestleMania over the weekend, you probably saw a lot of product placement. Let's just rattle off the number of brands that we saw represented during WrestleMania weekend. Intuit TurboTax, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Mike's Harder Lemonade, Snickers, because it satisfies, Prime Energy Drink, because of Logan Paul. Now, I do think that we will see a lot more product placement going forward when it comes to premium live events. Coming off of the heels of what was a very commercially successful WrestleMania, showing attractive new sponsors and attractive new product, an attractive new entity. While I may not like product placement in wrestling, it is here to stay. We've seen the commercial success of WrestleMania over the weekend and what it has done to attract revenue, sponsors, brand engagement, community engagement. There's going to be no small amount of companies that want some piece of the WWE machine now that it's being sold, now that there's a parent company that is overseeing the overall branding and sponsorship of this new entity. I do have to admit, using TKO on the stock exchange is going to be pretty clever. Now, as far as corporate structure, we've already seen a 51-49 split is the anticipated plan as far as ownership of this new Endeavor entity that is, at least right now, currently nameless. Now, we do know that as far as the board of directors, there will be 6 seats for Endeavor, 5 seats for WWE. I do see Vince remaining on the board of directors. He has retained his title of executive director that he angled for back in January when he returned to the company. But that does remain to be seen how these other remaining 4 seats will be filled out. Obviously, there are no shortage of options between Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, Kevin Dunn, Nick Khan, as far as retaining some board power. Now, I know you guys don't really care a whole lot about what's going on the board side. I just find this super fascinating, and seeing kind of the shift in equity and power, even if it's by a slight percentage margin, that we're seeing as a result of this merger. Still excites me to see kind of where things are going to go forward. And I think the biggest question that I'm getting right now is what's going to happen to creative, and we've already gotten our answer, unfortunately. Now, the Raw after WrestleMania was very, very reflective of typical tropes of Vince McMahon storytelling, including multiple last-minute changes to the show during the show, matches being pulled. Yeah, chaos. That's what we would call it. Is we call it chaos. Now with Triple H, we saw consistent long-term storytelling. We saw fresh matches. We saw titles being restored to their former glory. The promised land, basically. A hope for a life without Vince McMahon in charge of creative, and now it's gone. I promised I was going to do this. Now, while Vince did say that he was going to take a step back of sorts of creative and just oversee higher level decisions, when I first heard these words, I immediately thought anything creative related to Brock Lesnar, John Cena, The Rock, if he ever comes back, fingers crossed though, Undertaker, any of those top part-time legend talent with which Vince has a very clearly defined personal relationship, that he'd be overseeing creative with that. In a span of 12 hours, Vince went from I'm not going to be in the weeds to running the Raw after WrestleMania, the biggest show of the year, and perhaps the biggest letdown that I've probably seen for a Raw after WrestleMania in the last 10 years. So, if you watched Raw after WrestleMania, I think you'll agree with me that it was not the greatest episode that they've done. There were no real surprises, no big returns, no big debuts. The things that we are used to seeing from WWE, the Raw after WrestleMania, because it is the biggest show of the year, because you have the most diverse audience of the year, because you have the most vocal audience of the year, we were expecting to see something exciting, especially given the feel-good story that we saw with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn winning the tag team titles. We thought that we would see something a little bit more epic as far as the debuts, such as a Jay White or a Brian Cage, but that one's just me. And we really didn't get any of that. We saw a very, very pedestrian episode of Raw, where it could have been something that we see middle of July, it could have been beginning of November. Honestly, it could have been a Christmas episode. The only thing that was missing was a holiday-themed street fight. It's just so disappointing to see that on the heels of such an awesome show, that we had just a very disappointing follow-up. The entire weekend as a whole, even the SmackDown leading up until WrestleMania, had twists, it had turns. There was a lot to enjoy. It's Hall of Fame weekend. There were things that everybody was excited about. There was a palpable energy in the air that last night's show just did not have. I don't know if it was because it was a show that was divided into two nights. I don't know if it was just fatigue overall from the weekend. I mean, that's the epicenter of wrestling that weekend was in Los Angeles. It's just inexplicable. And I'm having a hard time believing that we are going to see any real creative change. So here's what I like, here's what I don't like about this sale. I think the big thing that comes to mind to me immediately is the potential for wrestlers to engage in their third-party endeavors as far as content creation outside of the WWE machine. We've seen a number of releases over the last couple of years for talents, primarily female talents, that have wanted to continue to run their fan pages, such as OnlyFans. We saw AJ Styles and Saraya doing Twitch during the pandemic. There's a lot of opportunity for wrestlers to earn additional income by being themselves and channeling and being able to create the same way that I'm getting to create this video. And even though they are independent contractors, they don't get those opportunities because WWE quickly put the kibosh on those. I do think that now that there's a new parent company in charge, one that has roots in entertainment business and in sports, that there are opportunities for branding that they are going to want these talents to take advantage of. So I can see that being a plus as far as more money all around for everybody to make. Whether this new company will be taking any percentage of those proceeds remains to be seen. I would imagine that Up, Up, Down, Down is going to remain untouched. That's a very loyal brand with a great following that I can very easily see Endeavor wanting to continue. Xavier Woods and the New Day and everybody that is involved with the creation of Up, Up, Down, Down content, has to be excited about what opportunities may unfold by being a part of this new family here. I do also think that this impacts the bidding war of 2024. Now, there's no shortage of wrestlers that have contracts that'll be coming up in 2024, some from WWE, some from AEW. The fact that the biggest wrestling company in the world is going to be merged with a sports and entertainment juggernaut means opportunity for music, movies, television, licensing. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. Now, it was already reported earlier in the year by Bleacher Report that WWE has been exploring options with, I believe, Colorado and Michigan to begin sports betting on events. Now, a lot of people were wondering how this might actually work, given the fact that WWE is scripted programming and thus predetermined. WWE has a response to that as well. We saw that there was going to be some sort of partnership or working relationship with Ernst & Young. They are the accounting firm that protects the integrity of award shows such as the Oscars and the Golden Globes every year. And a lot of people have some criticisms as to whether this might actually work, given the nature of professional wrestling and our interest in fervor and wanting to hear up-to-the-minute stories about what's going on before matches actually take place, and wondering whether there is actually any sort of secure measure that can be taken to keep results a secret so that bets can be placed without any issue or impropriety. There's definitely an opportunity here, I still think. When you look at what WWE and AEW do with FanDuel and DraftKings, or at the very least DraftKings, for the essentially propositions of, who's going to get hit with a chair first, how many finishes are we going to see, things like that. There's definitely ways that we can incorporate sports betting while protecting the integrity of storyline results. And I think that a merger with WWE and Endeavor will certainly open the opportunity for creative exploration in this field. Now, I get that it might be nerve-wracking to some to place bets on professional wrestling through sports books and bet slips. I mean, I'm not much of a gambler, but I can tell you that I do believe that, this partnership would allow for an additional layer of integrity to ensure results are kept secret, as well as the resources of a sports and entertainment powerhouse in order to facilitate these creative endeavors. And you have to think that AEW wrestlers are paying attention to the business aspect of what can be gained from signing a WWE contract. Now, I'm only calling them WWE right now because that's what they still are until we find out what this new name is. But you have to think that any wrestler that wants to work for that company or who has grown up enjoying Stone Cold Steve Austin, enjoying The Rock, is going to want to be a part of this new entity and the opportunities that may present themselves from the ground floor. Overall, what do I think? It's a very tough question because I am as lifer of WWE as it gets. So there's a lot of opportunity here. There's a lot of money to be made by everybody that's involved with this transaction, but we've only ever known this company with one man in charge, Vince McMahon. While we'll still see that he'll maintain a role in this new corporate structure, it is difficult to think that change is coming. Change is here, and while we thought that we had essentially seen the last of Vince McMahon and to have him come back, do I think that there's some good about this? Yes, I do. I think that there's a lot. I mean, from a financial standpoint, a lot of people stand to make a lot of money off of this, and there do seem to be some avenues for creativity and avenues for other opportunity for wrestlers outside of this business, especially now that we're in the era of seeing wrestlers being spun off to megastars, your Rocks, your John Cena's, your Batistas of the world. But this could very much affect creative going forward. Triple H was doing a phenomenal job for the last 8 months as chief content officer, and now we are seeing that while he may have that title, he may not have any of that authority that came with it. Now, the biggest question that I think most of you watching this video has is what's going to happen to creative now that this sale is essentially imminent. And unfortunately, that means a return to the status quo, at least from what we can tell. Raw after WrestleMania was extremely disappointing. No surprises, no returns, no debuts, rewriting of segments. Basically, same old McMahon shit that we've seen for years. Now, is Triple H perfect in that role as head of creative? No. But the stories that he has been able to tell over the last 8 months, the advancement of storylines, the overall consistency that we have seen in Raw, SmackDown, and NXT across the board for the time that he was in charge. I mean, hats off to him. I mean, a lot of the stuff that he did worked. A couple of things didn't, and we know that there's some returns that have underperformed, and that is what it is. That's the nature of the wrestling business, and I get that. But this return to Vince McMahon's creative means a return to disjointed storylines that you can clearly tell are being shifted and modified and tweaked and changed the last minute, shows being rewritten up until the end. All of the hallmarks that were making it very, very tough to watch 3 hours of Raw in the first place, we are now finally starting to see come back. And I don't know. I would hope that Triple H will retain some influence or some input as far as creativity and what it is we're going to see with these storylines, but I certainly don't have my hopes up. And while I don't have my hopes up, I'm going to keep watching. That's just what I always do. I've not loved every single storyline that they have ever produced. Just is what it is. But when we're presented with a piece of creative that is a little, I just take the approach of, I'm just going to keep watching. Let's see where this goes. Let's see where it unfolds. Sometimes plot twists I like. Sometimes plot twists I don't. Example, Brock Lesnar last night turning on Cody Rhodes. Perfection. I think that's going to be a great follow-up feud for Cody Rhodes. We know that his story with Roman Reigns is not over, as much as I would have wanted to see him finish the story at WrestleMania, drawing this out a little bit longer, making him a little bit more hungry, a little bit more determined. There's a lot of meat left on this bone, especially if he can conquer Brock Lesnar on the way. That says that he can hang in that same camp with Roman Reigns because they both have wins over Lesnar. That's a story that I can get behind. I don't know. I'm really struggling to try to come up with nice stuff to say about this. I just, But thanks so much for watching this video. Sound off. Let me know what you guys think. Are you in favor of the sale? Are you against it? What would you want to see stay? What would you want to see go? I want to hear from you guys. Thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure to check out the Wrestling Junkies podcast. Every week we have brand new content coming to the YouTube channel as well, and merch coming soon. Thank you guys so much, and we'll talk to you soon.